Hi, and thank you for joining us right here for a very special Father's Day event. My name's Todd Hartley. In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to Jarrett Payton, the son of the late NFL Hall of Famer Walter Payton. We all remember and we all appreciated a whole lot of sweetness in our life. And also, we're joined by Mike Lindstrom. And also, I'm going to introduce Mike first, then we're going to get to Jarrett Payton. Mike's the author of this awesome new book that we're going to talk about. And Mike is a communication expert, an author, a professional speaker. He lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, and his story, this book right here is What's Your Story, and it's an opportunity for you to discover the man behind your dad. Hey, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to come in and talk about the book. Book launched this past week, June 7th. Got a book signing here in Scottsdale tonight at Changing Hands in Tempe, and excited to come in here and talk about it.
Yeah, it's a super cool topic. Really, family stories are amongst my favorite, and that's why Jarrett Payton is joining us. He's the son of the late, great NFL Hall of Famer Walter Payton. Now, Jarrett is a radio host. He's a businessman, a philanthropist, a motivational speaker. He's a former NFL, CFL guy, and devoted father and husband. He's also a fill-in on WGN on the morning show. Jarrett, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to getting a chance to kind of sit here and talk about this great book, man. And Mike's one of my good friends, so it only makes it right to be able to be here to help him kick this thing off, which I'm super excited and happy for him because he put a lot of work into all this.
A really special book and a great opportunity come Father's Day just around the corner. And so what I'd like to do, Mike, is can you give us an idea of how a book like this could fit into a man like Jarrett's life?
Yeah. Well, when we wrote the book, we wanted to have a two-way conversation. Number one, if you're fortunate enough to still have your father alive or a grandfather or a man in your life, to be able to use the questions in this book. There's 114 questions in the book to be able to create a conversation, to be able to learn the story of your own father, and vice versa. If you have children, maybe your father's not alive. Jarrett's a good example. He's got two little kids, and Jarrett can be proactive and start sharing his story now, whether it be through a journal or through an application or through an audio or recording, so he can start transferring the story of his legacy or his father's legacy down to his children or posterity and the legacy of the Payton family.
Now, Mike Lindstrom, do me a favor, okay? I can see through this window over here. Click that little box on your screen because your screen froze up. Jarrett, we've all grown up watching the amazing stuff that your dad did on the field, and so I actually have discovered that there are some life lessons that I learned from him that I'm going to bring up in a moment that I just learned from watching TV, right? But tell me about a takeaway life wisdom that your dad gave you that you've instilled in your kids.
Well, you know, my little ones are pretty young. I have a 4-year-old, and then I also have a newborn who is a little bit, maybe almost 9 weeks now. So for me, I'm trying to teach them as much as possible. But, you know, one of the things that I took away from my relationship with my dad, I had him around for 19 years of my life. And to get the opportunity to watch him as a person that played football and also a person off the field, he really taught me what was kind of the words that he lived by, which were never die easy. And it's kind of ingrained into my heart, into the way that I work. And, you know, I have to kind of go back to the days where, you know, I grew up playing football. You know, I was a great athlete all through high school. And when I got to the University of Miami, you know, a lot of times when things got hard, you know, I gave up because, I don't know, maybe because of the way that I was brought up, that I, you know, had things that my dad didn't have, and we were very fortunate to be very blessed. And so when things got hard, I didn't kind of give it my all. And, you know, at the time where I was making that transition to playing football, my father passed away. So at 19, when I left off to go to Miami, is probably when I needed him the most. And I still had that never die easy inside of me, but I didn't know how to be able to bring it out. And so now it's funny that I'm 35 years old in the business world, also working into, you know, communications in the media. And now I understand, and I work like my dad used to work on the football field. And I think never die easy it's in all of us. It's something where when things get hard, when you feel like you can't do it, you have to be able to push on. And that's one thing that I saw my dad to the day that he passed away. I mean, he worked and he fought till the last. second. And I think if we all can do that in our lives, man, we can all be successful and we can all kind of get to what we want to get in the end. And I think that's just achieving all of our greatness.
Now, guys, something really cool happened. As Jarrett's talking about the never say die attitude that he saw from his dad, I was thinking of every one of his run plays, because they were never say die every play, right? Yep. And you watched until the shoulders were on the ground, because he still had a fighting chance. Now, I have Mike Lindstrom's book here, which is What's Your Story? And one of the really cool things that happened if Walter Payton had a book like this, right? And he could open it up. And I just opened up while Jarrett was talking about the never say die attitude. And my finger went to one page. And it was, is resilience something learned or something developed? And this would be a page that your dad or any dad out there could have filled. And I just got chills. It happened. It was so great, right? But Mike, is that why you built this book?
Yeah, one thing that we tell our story, and a lot of it's history and facts, but a lot of the other part of that we miss, especially for men, because we're not very good at talking about feelings, is the emotional things, the philosophies, the values, our belief systems. That's a belief system question. I would love to sit down with Walter Payton and ask him that question. I'm sure Jarrett would feel the same way.
Well, always, these are those moments where we have the opportunity now, and I tell people all the time, one of the biggest things is if you have your parents around, you have loved ones around, enjoy every single second. Because I found myself, after my dad passed, in like huge moments in my life of actually writing stories to him about stuff that was going on in my life, because he wasn't around, but it was the only way for me to be able to kind of get my feelings out and put them on paper. And I've been writing all my life, so it's kind of over the time it became therapeutic for me. Instead of going down and sitting and talking to a therapist, for me to write these things down to have, and to now look back at them years later. I mean, this book to me is huge for the relationship. It's not just a father and a son. We're talking about family here. And the one thing I've really learned at being a father for the last 4 years has been the time that you get to spend with your kids is what's most important. And your kids are like sponges. They are going to soak up everything that you do, everything that you say, and more than likely they're going to want to be like you. And you have to be a good role model. You have to be that person that they can look up to, and you're not going to be perfect. That's the nature of the world. But if you can strive to be the best you can be, you can really truly be a learning tool for your kids down the line. And I think that's what's most important. I think that's what this book kind of brings to mind to people, that they get a chance to really understand what it's all about. Listen, everybody's got jobs. I get that. And we all want to get paid as much as possible, because that's what I get that. But in the grand scheme of things, what's most important is family. My dad said, son, you can lose everything in the world. Everything. You lose all your money, but one thing that you're always going to have with you is your last name. Don't ever tarnish it. Don't ever dirty it up. He said, listen, you can play football all your life, and you'll have a bunch of different jerseys if you move around. But when they put that nameplate on the back, the nameplate's always going to say Payton. The number could change. The team colors can change. So make sure that you really respect that. And family, to me, is what's most important. And I think that's what this book is kind of bringing out there, that Mike had an opportunity to have different interactions with people that he gets to deal with on a daily basis, and he understands what's most important. It comes down to family.
Yeah, awesome. It's so well said, guys. My stories of my grandparents, which I was raised by, are among the most valuable jewels in my heart. And if I had a book like this, where my grandmother, who was raised in an orphanage during the Great Depression in Brooklyn, could have filled out her wisdom that she learned from her life lessons, this would be the most valuable thing. This would be the first thing I'd grab if the house is on fire, because everything else could be replaced. But that opportunity to dig deep and to learn about what my grandmother would say, or my grandfather, about personal integrity, or Jarrett's dad, Walter, what he would say about integrity or commitment or dedication, or what it means to be great at what you do, it would all be listed right here directly from your ancestor. What a beautiful tool you created, Mike Lindstrom.
Thank you. When we've been doing a lot of media the last week, and of course I do speaking events leading up to the book launch this week, and every single person that's come up to me has a story. I had a gentleman last week told me, he lost his father when he was 12. One other one said that his grandfather lived to be 99 and passed away last year, and he wished he would have had the opportunity to go back just a few months and sit down with his grandfather, 99, and ask some of these questions. You have someone in your life, and this is obviously a dad's book or a Father's Day book, but you have someone in your life, it could be a mother or a father, but to be able to use the questions as a prompt to sit down and extract that priceless information is so huge.
Yeah, it's really cool. Guys, I want to do a little roundtable real quick. Jarrett, this question right out of the book, if your dad had filled this question out right here, okay, I want to know what you think he would have said. Can I really be anything I put my mind to? I mean, really? What would your dad have said there?
He would say that that's dead on. I mean, you have to look at his background. And a lot of people, they don't think about that. It's funny, you guys, because being here and growing up in Chicago, my dad grew up in Mississippi and went to Jackson State. But if you ask people from Chicago, they will tell you that Walter Payton's from Chicago. They don't even think about him being from Mississippi because of what he made here in Chicago. So if you go back and see where he came from and the era that he came up in, the point where there was racial divide, there was a lot of stuff, segregation going on. My dad's high school was one of the first high schools to be integrated in the state of Mississippi. So there was a moment in time where this kid who started playing his junior year in high school, everybody in the town would come in Columbia to see him play, and for that 60 minutes they would forget about what color their skin was. They would forget about how mad they were at this person or that person, and they would just enjoy watching this young kid play football. And so, yeah, I think when you look at his past, he would say, listen, I came from basically nothing, and I made it here. And even when I got to the Bears, people didn't think he was going to. They drafted him in the first round. They're going, who is this guy from Jackson State? And to see what he left here, man, he worked for everything because he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the fastest. My dad said he was the smartest. And he found ways to take all of the things that he did well, put it in together, and which made him, to me, the most complete football player, not running back. My dad is the complete football player that's ever played the game. He could play any position, doesn't matter, but he learned a way to be able to use his tools, and I think that right there was speaking to basically what he talked to me about growing up. It doesn't matter where you come from. Work hard, put the work in, and if you do that, good things will come. And every time that I did that, I ended up coming up with something good in my life, and still do to this day.
Mike, I mean, this may be one of the few opportunities I get to talk with the the Walter Payton family, and as a longtime sports fan, I've always wondered, what's it like growing up in Chicago with that nameplate on your back? And then I got a second question, which I'll do later on, but it's really about that Super Bowl year, which I'm totally obsessed with because of the rap song, of course. But Jared, what's that like growing up? Like, my last name, and my dad always said, whatever you do, don't embarrass the family. That was his big takeaway. But what's it like walking around with the biggest name in Chicago plastered all over you?
Oh, man, I always talked about it as being like the gift and the curse, right? Because you love having the name, but there's other things that come along with it. At a young age, you guys, I really, truly understood that, my dad was ours, but he was everybody else's as well. And in this city, they always talk about it. They say, man, Michael Jordan is loved, but Walter Payton is revered. And I think it kind of goes with what this city of Chicago is all about. The city is about hard worker, blue collar, bring your lunch pail, your hard hat to work every single day. And that's what my dad was, man. He came to every single game. He played for 13 years and missed one game, and that was his rookie year, which he wished he could have probably played. But he came to work every single day, and that's what Chicagoans are all about, man. We work hard here, and I think everything that my dad stood for, it's kind of, goes along with what he did and what people here in the city do. And I think that's why people are so they just feel gravitated towards the family. And we just try to, here in Chicago, keep the name up, keep doing what we're supposed to, what we were taught by my mom and my dad, and, do good things. And so anytime you get a chance to have someone like Mike come around, a good person, a great head on his shoulders, his ability to be able to connect with people, doesn't matter where they're from, what their background is, and really see people for who they are. That's what's so telling about this book, is that his relationships that he's built over the years, the people that he's met, this has all come together in this book, where he's talked to, fathers, he's talked to mothers about their relationship with their kids. He's got such a great background, which makes this book so powerful. And I think that's why you look at it, you open up any page of that book and you go, it applies to you. And if it doesn't apply to you, you can kind of look at it and you can try to answer the question and figure out how you can get on that track. And to me, I think that's what's so phenomenal. I mean, you're creating something that not only just a great book, but you're creating, Mike, something that is going to be able to last, Todd, like you said, for generations, and pass this on. And that's what we want to do. We want to pass on the things that we've learned from our parents, the conversations maybe we didn't get to have, or the conversations that we did have, because that's the foundation of who we are as people. And when we have kids, that's what we're going to pass on to them.
Hey, Todd, I have a quick share. JP may know that he may not remember this. We had breakfast in Scottsdale a few years ago when he was in town. I told him a little bit about the story, but I wanted to put this on a recording here. So my grandfather was one of the biggest influences in my life. He was 90 years old when he passed away. Huge impact on me. He came here from Poland as a little kid, didn't speak English, lived in Chicago. He was an iron worker in Chicago, huge Chicago Bears fan. And I remember when I was a kid, for Christmas, we bought him the old school jackets, the shiny ones, the big ones with the collar, with the Bears, and he would never miss a game. He would sit there in front of that TV. He was a proud Polish Chicagoan, and he would sit there and talk about Walter Payton. He's like, watch this guy, watch this. And we would sit there and obsess over Walter Payton in my grandfather's home. So it's kind of a unique connection that JP and I become friends. I don't think that's an accident. I think it's a God thing or a universe thing that we've become some dear friends over the last years. But to have somebody like my grandfather, who I wish I could sit down with one more time and go through these questions again, he did impart a lot of that knowledge to me, but he had such a strong connection to Chicago and to the Payton family. So I wanted to share that.
Well, it's definitely beautiful. What we can all learn from a book like this about our ancestors is extraordinary. For those of you who are just joining us right now, we're having a very special pre-Father's Day event. We're talking with Jarrett Payton, the son of NFL Hall of Famer, the late Walter Payton. The author of What's Your Story, Mike Lindstrom, is here with us. By the way, you can get this book off of Amazon. You can also get it at MikeLindstrom.com. We'll give more information about that as this conversation continues. Mike, how valuable is it? Like, what is the value life lessons that a father can pass on to his kids? I mean, for most of us, after our parents or our grandparents leave, we draw off of their wisdom. So a book like this fits in, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Obviously the book is $18 as a cover price. You can get it on Amazon for $11.65. But in terms of the value of what you're doing with the book and the journey that you take with your family, you couldn't put a price tag on that. I mean, so many people have come up to me and said, I wish I would have had this for so-and-so. And that the priceless and valuable part of that. But the other part of it is also just creating the memories for yourself, not just writing it down and doing the questions, but to be able to have those memories in your head because you decided because of this book that maybe every Sunday you're going to take your father to lunch. We have a good friend of mine, Dan Lear, whose father lives in Michigan. He made a summer goal that he's going to talk to his dad every week on the phone for about 15 minutes, and he's going to ask him a couple of the questions each week, and he's going to record the phone conversation and have it transcribed into a book format, and he's going to give it to his two kids. So I love it. He wrote the goal down. He told his dad he was going to do it. His dad's enrolled. He's committed to it. And Dan is a speaker and an author as well, and he's out sharing the story of what he's going to do, and he's inspiring other people to do this priceless journey with other people. So I can't put a price tag on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jarrett Payton, a book like this, right? If this book is at your home and you're raising young children, how do you incorporate a book like this that's passed on to you into the way that you're raising your kids to live up to that Payton name on the back of their daily jersey?
Well, that's actually, Todd, I really like that, the daily jersey. I never really thought of it like that, right? I mean, because it is. It's the walk that we walk every single day. is in our jersey with our last name. It doesn't matter if it's Payton, if it's Lindstrom. It doesn't matter. We all have something that we have to kind of, there's a standard, in our family. And so for me, having a book like that is going to give an opportunity to open up the lines of communication and to be able to sit down with my son and have these conversations with him, to ask him, to let him know as he grows older, to have these conversations, because these are conversations that I didn't get a chance to have with my dad. I mean, we talked about stuff, but it was always, I was a visual learner. So he would take me places, and I would see him be able to do things where he'd go into a room with like 1,000 people with no speech written, and he would just blow the doors off. And I'd be like, how did he do that when we were just playing basketball at the arcade for like 7 hours, and he just comes in and kills this speech? And I would watch over time how he did things. And so now I want to change the legacy in my household. I want to change, the different relationship. And my dad and I had a great relationship, but I think being around, my dad worked a lot. He was always gone. He was trying to make sure that our family was okay. With me now, being a father myself, having a book like this would give me more time to sit down with them, to sit down with my kids, to talk with them, to create that conversation, that dialogue, because I feel like in this day and age, you guys, it's kind of lost in some ways, in the way that we live with social media, and we text, we don't call. I mean, it used to be you had to call somebody. You had to know their phone number and call them and talk to them and make sure they were home. And now it's just send a text real quick. This opens up that communication with a young one and with your kids, and I think that's going to be beneficial for both sides, for the kids and for, as a parent, as a father. I think it's a big deal.
Well, I'm sure that's the reason behind Mike Lindstrom wanting to make sure that a book like this gets into the hands of fathers so they can pass their legacy and their wisdom onto their kids. 85, 86, this is like the magic year, right? We're all of us fellas, we're all roughly the same age. A question I've got to ask while we're with you is, for people that revere your dad, which is like most of us NFL fans, and every time they talk to you, how often every day does somebody feel like your dad brings up to you that your dad got slighted in the Super Bowl, and how often do they bring up Refrigerator Perry? Does this thing happen every day?
Yeah, it happens every day. I got a little guest. I don't know if you guys can see. Yes,
hey, buddy.
That's my son, Jaden. Almost every single day someone comes up to me and they ask me about why my dad didn't score. But you guys, you know what? It becomes a part of his legacy. It becomes a part of, why people talk every single day and they mention my dad and what he meant. But there is not a day since my dad passed in 1999 that he is not mentioned by somebody in this city. And so it just goes to show. I mean, and then most of the time, you guys, 9 times out of 10, that's nothing to do with football. It has to do with the person that he was, that he met them in a grocery store and stopped them and said hello. And there's a funny story that I just heard from this lady a couple of years ago, where she was, and I heard about this story before. I didn't know it was true, but my dad was walking in the grocery store one night before the weekend's game, and I think it was like on a Saturday. He was walking around, and this lady came around the corner, and she was pushing a cart, and she ran over my dad's foot, not hard, and my dad jumped up like, I think I broke my toe, and she freaked out, and she said, all I could think of was that I broke your dad's toe and he wasn't going to be able to play on that Sunday. And my dad ended up signing a bunch of stuff for her and signed like her bread. And like it was just one of those cool stories of seeing how, my dad probably impacted people's lives. And so he's missed, but he's talked about every single day.
And he blessed so many of us along the way without us knowing. Pop quiz question, whose voice sounds more like your dad's, yours or Jaden? It's Jaden, right?
Yeah, it's Jaden. I think mine the most. My mom freaks out now because she says, you sound just like your dad. And, I'm trying to learn and being in media of getting a deeper voice or a louder voice, but it's just who I am, I can't do it. So I'm trying to learn how to do that, but it doesn't upset me at all. If I can be, my dad would say, and Mike, I think I might have told you this, my dad would always say, don't be like me, son, be better than me.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what that meant because I would always look and say, dude, Dad, you are the greatest. How am I supposed to be better than you? But he was talking about not just on the football field. He was talking about more what you do off the football field and being nice to people, giving people time.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, man, that's what gives people, you know, an opportunity to get to know you. And knowing Mike, Todd, for the time that I've known him, I mean, it seems just like yesterday, but, man, you talk about a guy that is always there and available to give people time, to listen to people, to help them through problems, to figure out stuff with them, to connect with somebody else. I mean, you talk about unselfish, and I'm not going to compare you to my dad, Mike, but I'm going to compare you in the way, though, that my dad was loving and caring and willing to give up his time to people, is similar to how you are as a person, man. And I think it speaks volumes to what you've done in your career, and I think where you're headed, especially with this book. It shows that you're doing this from the kindness of your heart, and to me, that's the only way you do things, and when you do them like that, you're truly blessed. So I already know that this book is going to be a huge success already.
Well, thanks. Hey, I got a quick story. I got to tell this, JP. You got to roll with me on this one, my man. So JP and I had talked on the phone a lot, and we never really hung out. And he came out to Scottsdale a few years back, and he stayed at my house, and it was on a Monday night, and he had people to see in town, and I had work to do all day. He sends me a text message at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He says, "Hey, can we go out tonight and meet some friends?" And I'm thinking, I got a full day on Tuesday. It's a Monday night. You know, the kids got school, stuff's going on. So I said, what the heck? It's a rare opportunity that JP and I get to hang out. So we ended up going and meeting a couple friends. It was Goldie. Remember we met Goldie?
Yeah.
So we started this little restaurant in Scottsdale. It was like 4 of us. And it turned into 7 of us. And then it turned into 10 of us. And then we go to this other restaurant. And it was all because of the energy that we put together when JP and I were together. But a lot of it was because of JP. Similar to that, he puts that love out there, and people know who he is, and they connect with him. By the end of the night, and we were just hanging out, having a great time. We weren't really partying or anything, but by the end of the night, it's like 1:45 in the morning. We had like 30 people we didn't even know, but they were attracted to the energy of who JP is, and that love, and that he gives everybody time. At every single turn, he would talk to people, he would sign stuff for people. People just knew who he was. So it was kind of neat to be able to spend a full evening with JP and feel the love that is Payton. And you can see it by growing a group from 3 or 4 people to 30 people in one night on a Monday night. It was such a great night.
You know what though, Mike? It was funny because that whole time period, Todd, it was you know, we're in Arizona. So when you talk about Arizona, when you look at people from Chicago, when they leave here, they're not going to Florida anymore. They're going to Arizona. The reason why? Because they have Portillo's there now. And Portillo's is the spot here in Chicago. So you get an opportunity to see people in that city. And Mike opened up his doors to me. And that was the big reason why I fell in love with Arizona. I'm already thinking about, I told him this, and it's been a process, but I'm already thinking about trying to figure out how we can get a house down there because it is so nice. And the people are so great. And when you have a lot of Chicagoans, when I'm driving around and I see a bunch of Illinois license plates, you know, it makes it easy. But and all of us are taught that we're all a blessing. And my mom says, you know, I'm a blessing to be a blessing. So if you can do that and you can kind of give out those good vibes, people will come towards you. And if you can do that, you know, it gives you an opportunity to be a leader. And I look forward to that on a daily basis. I mean, that's my passion. That's my goal. And anytime I can impact somebody's life on a positive level, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to do anything else.
And you know what? I love hearing you say that, but that's the wisdom that a dad holds from life of experience. And that's the wisdom that gets passed on in a book like What's Your Story, created by author Mike Lindstrom, that's with us. If you want to get access to Mike's book, if you want to buy this book for the dad in your life for Father's Day coming up, go to mikelindstrom.com. And if you are a dad and maybe you're a little bit fearful of having these conversations, this is a conversation starter that you can have with your kids, and it's an activity that you could do together and then fill out and then give to them as a Father's Day gift from your heart and your wisdom direct to your kids. What a beautiful contribution, Mike Lindstrom.
Thank you very much for having us share these stories. It was an honor when Todd and I we were talking about who could we showcase or highlight leading up to Father's Day, and it was a no-brainer. Jarrett popped right in my head because not just who his dad is, but I know the father that he is, and he just had his newborn, so I'm watching his stuff on social media. He's all over Twitter, Facebook. Go check him out at jarrettpayton.com or at Jarrett Payton on Twitter. You can see his Snapchats, so you get to see his story come through his social media. So I knew he'd be a perfect character to get together today and talk about this and talk about Father's Day, such an important day.
Yeah, it sure is. Jarrett Payton, thank you so much. You know, we all have the opportunity to have this everyday jersey that we wear. In honor of your dad, if I could select one, I'm going to wear the breakaway jersey. And that's just how I roll. And, a really fun conversation to talk about not only the Chicago Bears and the late, great, revered NFL Hall of Famer Walter Payton, but his legacy and lessons that he passed on to his children, and also the tie-in with Mike Lindstrom and his book, What's Your Story? On behalf of Mike and Jarrett, my name's Todd Hartley. Again, for more information, MikeLindstrom.com is where you can get access to this book. And on behalf of the three of us, we wish you all a very healthy, happy Father's Day and the opportunity to pass your wisdom down to your children and their children. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, JP, I love you, brother. Thank you.
Love you too, guys. I appreciate you guys, man. This is awesome.